Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make tiny improvements to your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon.
Hello and welcome to this episode. Today I'm talking to one of my favorite people about one of my favorite things. That is Nicole from Let Nicole Help, and we are talking about 17 hats. That is my CRM of choice. But if you use a different CRM, these tips will probably convert to whatever you're using. If you don't have a CRM, you really need to think about it. It is the way I run my entire business as a solopreneur. And this episode is meaty. I'm going to warn you, if you are a 17 hats user, these are not basic features. These are things that a lot of them I'm not even utilizing, and I've been using the platform for 5 years. So this is a really great episode. You might have to go back and take some notes. You might have to go and do some research after. But these are the episodes I love, the ones full of actionable items. So I think you will find it helpful. And these are just a few of the tips. There are 17 tips in total, and you can find those in the show notes wherever you're listening. So let's take a quick break, and then we will get into this week's episode.
BalloonCoach.com has been a sponsor of The Bright Balloon since pretty much day one because, like this podcast, Balloon Coach focuses on growing your balloon business. I personally love Balloon Boss Mastermind because it is a group that constantly challenges me to grow my business, think about things in new ways, and I'm able to ask questions to other balloon business owners who usually have more experience than I do. From monthly webinars to in-person events and downloadable resources, BalloonCoach.com really has it all. So check out the link in the show notes wherever you're listening to learn more about BalloonCoach.com.
All right, welcome back again, Nicole from Let Nicole Help. And Nicole helps me. She got my 17 Hats CRM all cleaned up, and then she helps me with my podcast notes and emails each week. So I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Today, what are we going to talk about?
Well, do you want to talk about 17 Hats again?
Yes. I feel, because a side note, 17 Hats is a really huge platform. I use it to run my entire business. I use it to run the podcast, actually. Any project management, I now depend on 17 Hats. But I think a lot of people get overwhelmed at the size of it because you can customize everything and it can do so many things. So I feel like it's endless. I feel like we could always talk about 17 Hats, but
Right.
Yes, I want more.
Right on. Well, today I'm going to talk about 7 features that I think are most helpful in the platform. So
Very
you want to
cool.
dive right in?
Well, really quick, also, if you don't have 17 Hats, if you're a listener, I think there's probably still a lot of valuable information. First, hopefully it will highlight things that could be done easier that you might not be doing and why you maybe need a CRM. Also, if you use a different CRM, probably many of these features exist in some way or form in there, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Our preference is obviously 17 Hats. It's what we use. It works really great for my business. But if you're already using a different CRM, you can probably find these features elsewhere.
Yeah. I'd say poke around and see if something like these things exist in another CRM too. But they're things that have been helpful for the clients I've been working with, and you're using as well in your business. So yeah, great point.
Real quick, just in case this is your first episode ever listening to the podcast, we have a few other 17 Hats related episodes. But basically it's a CRM, customer relationship management tool, I think is what it stands for. I basically think of it as like a big digital filing cabinet. So everything I do in my business is stored in my CRM. So gone are the days of like sorting through old emails or writing things on paper or like handwriting invoices. Like everything is digital. Everything lives in 17 Hats, from first point of contact to invoice to follow-up email. It's all in 17 Hats. So if you're not even sure what that is, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, right on.
All right. Hit it.
All right. first feature that I love, when you're creating a quote in 17 Hats, they've got three different sections that where you can like add in the standard items that you know your customer has asked for and that they want to purchase from you. Then there's also a section where they can choose one. Maybe it's from a list of 2 or 3 items, and maybe that is like, delivery or delivery and takedown would be an example there where they're just choosing one of those options.
Oh,
And
that's
then
such a good example. I've never even thought about that.
yeah, yeah. And there's, all kinds of ways you can get to that information, but that section of a quote where they choose one is one of those ways to get to that
Very cool.
choice. Yeah. And then
And
there's a third section of where you can add in the quote any like add-ons where they can choose any or none. And so, yeah, that's a great place to add like, do you want any personalization on this balloon or any like just add-ons that you might have, and maybe they don't select any, no problem. But maybe that's a good spot for you to recommend good products for the rest of their selection.
that's so smart. I totally underutilize the quotes, but I really want to start utilizing them more because as they click those things, the total changes right in front of them. They're basically building
Yeah,
their own quote, and sometimes it gets them to the sale a little bit quicker, I've realized.
yeah, yeah. I love it, and I've said this before, I think, but and this is not one of my 7 features of the day, but but when you start with a quote, you can actually attach your contract and invoice right to it. So anything they select in that quote will show up on their invoice if they just keep clicking. So I do think that's a pretty fantastic feature.
So
Um,
cool.
yeah. So the next feature that I find really helpful is that you can actually start different workflows from a choice in a list. So like my example here would be, what are you celebrating? And maybe they pull down a drop down and they select from, birthday party, baby shower, wedding, etc. And it's possible that you're going to have a different workflow for each of those types of events. So from that drop down list, whatever they select, you can have a different workflow start.
Okay, I'm already thinking I should do that. Right now, I don't have that option. I ask what they're celebrating and it does nothing. But I could have most of my events are the same except for weddings because usually they're like
Hmm.
a year away. And I just don't feel like planning all the details right now because they're going to change their mind like 5 times. So I usually charge a $100 save the date, like a retainer fee, basically.
Right.
If they click wedding, that could activate that workflow that then asks for that deposit right away to save their date.
Yeah, yeah, and likely in that case, like you said, it's a year away. So you would know to have more, email contacts maybe throughout that year rather than expecting the event to potentially be 2 weeks away. That's a much different timeline for like reminders and, all those
Yeah.
emails. So,
Yeah, I love it. Actually, someone else, Diana Gladden, who she actually uses Dubsado, but she said that she has for her wedding clients, they have like additional touch points, like you just said, throughout the year. And some of them are just like at the 6 month mark, like, woohoo, 6 months away from your wedding. We're so excited. No action needed, but we're thinking about you or something. And that just
right,
sends like automatically. So her clients feel like they haven't forgotten about them. But like, meanwhile, us as the business owners aren't really doing anything.
right, right. You might not have really touched much with that project just yet, but they feel
Right.
special. I love that.
So cool.
Yeah. Um, and then, so the next feature is multiple calendars. And I like this for like when a request comes on through your inquiry form, it can go on like maybe an inquiry calendar. And so you know that it's not booked yet. You know that these people haven't, paid their deposit or anything. And so you know that if another request happens to come in on that day, you're not officially booked with that other one. So, you know, you don't have to decline that job just yet. Who's going to book you first, essentially. And then once someone makes a deposit payment, you can move them onto your booked calendar to know that that's a job that you've got to, get to now. So it's more than just inquired. It's a booked job.
Yeah, that is one thing that you did for me when I hired you to kind of clean up my CRM. And it has been one of the biggest game changers in my business in the last year for sure, probably in the last 5 years, because I was always utilizing calendars. But like you just said, I would look and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so booked up for March. But then really, I'd go in and be like, wait a minute, none of these people have paid. None of them
Yeah.
have even confirmed. Like, I've been turning away jobs because I look booked, but I'm really not. So now I can look at my calendar, and mine, you took mine like to the next level. So it's color coded. So
Yeah.
inquiry is red, invoiced is yellow, and paid is green. So if I look ahead and I see all green, it's like, oh yeah, I'm already booked and these are confirmed and paid. Versus if I look ahead and I see all red, it's like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, if anything,
Mm-hmm.
I need to start trying to convert some of those, or kind of like hustle some of those off my calendar, if that makes sense. Like, we have a nice template for like basically saying goodbye to clients. Like,
Yeah.
haven't heard from you. So keep us in mind for the next one. Bye. Basically ending the conversation, because that's like mental clutter too. Like, having all these people kind of hanging in limbo, not really officially booking and still thinking that like kind of you have them penciled in.
Right.
The calendar has really helped me track down those people, and also give me a quick visual indicator of how booked I really am. Because sometimes it feels like you're swamped, but like at the end of the day, you actually have like one job that weekend, even though it looks like you have five.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Just rather than having to like remember when you look at your calendar, excuse me, remember, oh, that person, did they do, the deposit or not? Yeah. Like it's an easy glance, from that color coding, especially, what's
Yeah,
your
and I
calendar.
know I know people who use the calendar right in 17 Hats, like on the dashboard, like they live and die by that calendar. I personally have it linked to my Google Calendar.
Hmm.
So that way like all my personal appointments and stuff are on there as well, so I can actually see like my whole life in
Yeah.
one snapshot, but it syncs with Google Calendar. I've gotten that question before.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. All right. So let's hop into the next feature, custom fields. And so this took a minute to, I guess, for me to utilize fully. But when you add a custom field, not only can you like personalize your emails and your email templates and your documents even better, but then it's gonna like populate all of that information, like the base information about their date and their location and everything. But then if you add a custom field for, their decor options or their color theme, and now all of that's just showing up right there, together in the project tab. That's a really helpful custom field.
Wait, okay, I don't think I know anything about this. Is this the same as tokens?
They can map to tokens. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Tell me more.
um,
I don't think I do
yeah,
this. Do I do this?
no, we need to add some for you. I've been meaning to
Oh, I'm
talk to
really
you about this.
excited.
Yeah. So then everything's just gonna begin to populate in one space, and then in an email template, you could say, "I've got your token colors," and then it'll list out their blue, yellow, and red, whatever colors they're
Yeah.
using. I've got those email or balloons ready to go, whatever you're going to say,
So
but
it could
like it's another way to
essentially,
personalize.
so it essentially writes a really, really custom email based on the inputs that you tell it to include.
Yeah, you or them, because you can add this mapping on your lead form to your custom fields. So
Interesting. Very
even if
cool.
they're, yeah, giving you information right from the start, or maybe it's something you add at one point in your workflow, there is a bit of like you need to be mindful of how, when you set up your custom field, how the answers that you're providing there will make sense in a sentence. You know,
Oh, gotcha. Right. So if like the tenses or the grammar is weird.
yes, yes. So you have to be mindful of those things.
Well, because I use that, I mean, like a little bit. I would say I do the basics, like customer name, event date, or something like that. That stuff is in my inquiry form, and that way, when we send the emails, it's like dear customer name, and it pops
Right.
their name in there. But that's kind of almost like the default setting from 17 Hats. So I don't think I really even programmed that. I didn't know there were other options to create more.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying more and more along the way, and
That's
they're
super
helpful.
cool.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, at the very bottom level, it's like email templates. Like everyone should be using email templates.
Yeah.
And this like puts them on steroids. This is how it can be customized. This is how it can actually include some real information versus just like, see you tomorrow. It's like, see you tomorrow at this location at this time for this event type of thing.
Yes.
Very cool. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, I need to dive into that a little bit more because I think I'm definitely underutilizing it.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we have number 5 here. Okay, so I've added there's actually a whole section for to-dos that exist outside of your workflows that you set up. So I like these for like other business to-dos and even life to-dos, honestly. But the one that comes to mind, especially this time of year, is like reminder to pay your quarterly taxes or do those things. So it's not associated to any projects you're working on with your customers, but there's this whole section of to-dos, and you can create different to-do lists. So maybe you have a list for finances, a list for marketing, like post to Instagram is one of my to-dos every week. So that I may or may not actually accomplish every week, but but there's ways to have these other lists outside of your workflows, which I like.
So I'm going to put you on the spot for a little bit because I don't utilize those to-do lists. But can you make them recurring? Do you know?
You can. Yep.
Interesting. So basically, if you put like pay quarterly taxes, you could have that recurring every quarter, and it pops up when you need to do it.
Yeah, it'll show up on your dashboard for you.
Very cool. Like I could see that being useful for inventory. Like,
yes,
monthly inventory orders, but then there's those things that like you don't need all the time. Like, for me, I can think of like weights, like helium balloon sand weights. I don't go through a ton of them, but it seems like when I need them, they're always gone and I'm always ordering them last minute versus if like once a quarter, I order like 100 of them and just like replenish, like kind of more on a schedule. Cause I've been kind of fantasizing about this idea of like having some sort of like an automated, like Amazon pantry, but for balloons. Like if things could just arrive when I needed them without me having to do anything, that would be glorious. I've already planted the seed with my friends at having a party, and I think there's some potential there because how amazing would that be if you just like got your deliveries? Sorry, I'm going on a huge tangent. It's just like that's the fantasy. I just want not to have to do anything and for magically things to just show up.
Perfect. Yes. Perfect.
And I think
I love that.
I think the more that those things can be recurring and routine, that would be very cool. One more question about those and then we can move on. Other than just like a basic to-do, are there like, can you put notes? Is there like a notes section under to-dos?
There's like a description, I guess.
Because,
or like where you can add more than just the name of the to-do, but like some maybe instructions for yourself.
That would be really helpful for me. Like, renew annual insurance policy. If I could like link to the actual login page and like, so I just have to click and do it real quick versus half the time I'm like, I don't even remember I don't even know how to access that. Like I don't care. I'm not going to do it right now. That'd be great. Wow. I'm excited. I need to start utilizing those.
Yeah. I love it. It's helpful for obviously all these business things, but I mean, go ahead and add a life to do,
Even like goal setting. Like you could just like put your kind of schedule out your goals for the year and like almost have like check-ins built in. Like, oh yeah, I forgot I was going to work on that this year. Whoops.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's move on because otherwise we'll be on this one forever.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. I love how, I think it's with their top tier subscription only, but the Zapier connection. So what this does is Zapier is another really cool tool that like connects other tools in your business. So anytime someone fills out a lead capture form, that information and that new contact can also be copied, say into a Google Sheet or your mailing list if you have one. So I think that's a really great tool that like you don't have to do any even copy and paste. Zapier is just can take care of that for you. And they have an integration with 17 Hats.
That's awesome. Yeah. Zapier, I will say, not super easy. Like I use it for a couple things and I am like fairly techie and I was like, oh my God, this sucks. But once you get it working, and I'll give a couple real life examples, maybe not usable in your balloon business, but like every time a new episode comes out, Zapier does a post to my Instagram. So like for the podcast, we use Zapier from my podcast host to Instagram. So that's why every Tuesday you'll see the same image. It's the podcast image and then the description of the episode. That's not me posting. Like that's a robot. It automatically happens and it's amazing. The other thing I use Zapier for is anytime someone purchases a course, their name goes on my email list. I should do that for my balloon business too. I'm not currently doing that, but I totally should. So Zapier is like you said, it connects different tools and there's a lot of them. Like it integrates with a lot. So it's not like, it should not be your entryway into automation. It's like next level in my opinion, but it is super cool. Anytime you can just like literally take something off your plate. I feel like automation is a great concept, but in reality, it's hard to find things that are truly, truly automated. Like even like, like batching your content. Like, yes, it's automated once they start posting, but you still have to write the captions and figure out what you're going to post versus with Zapier, you literally don't. Like it's generating the content from somewhere else. So it's very cool, but it's very it's not step one on your automation process.
No, it's not. No, don't start there.
Hey friends, I wanted to take a second to tell you about Havin a Party Wholesale. They are my preferred balloon distributor, and if you're not following them on Instagram, you're missing out. They post tons of free education for the balloon industry, in addition to updates on products that are coming in stock or new releases, and they really, really take care of us as balloon decorators. I had someone reach out the other day and ask if I order on Amazon, and I almost passed out. If you are ordering your balloons on Amazon, you are wasting so much money. You need a reputable balloon distributor to take you to that next level. So check out Havin a Party Wholesale in the show notes wherever you're listening.
All right, last one, project tags. And so this is another thing that took a minute to kind of realize the usefulness, I guess.
Yeah, I for sure still have not, but I'm starting to see it. Like I'm starting to realize like, ooh, everything hinges on tags.
Yeah. And especially now that just recently 17 Hats now can automatically add a tag for you at a certain point in your workflow. If you set it up that way, of course. But so tags are going to allow you to, like my best example here is like, how did you hear about us? And, maybe you have another drop-down list here. I think we've talked about this before, where I would recommend a drop-down list so they can, select Facebook or repeat customer or whatever. And then with any drop-down list, you can also add tags right there. And so you would be able to then eventually get to how many leads did I get from Instagram? How many leads did I get from referrals and everything? So tags will allow you to do that.
Well, and I'm a 17 Hats ambassador, so we get like little inside scoops some of the time, and I know that they're developing tags a lot. Like again, I don't know in what way, but releasing the tags in workflow was a big deal. I wouldn't be surprised if we see tags utilized a lot. So that the earlier you start using them, I think the better. For me, my best example is that I will tag events as annual, as like recurring. So that way I can go and I can filter all of my archived projects. So every project I've ever done, and I can filter it so I only see the ones that are annual, or maybe I only see the ones that are like $3,000 and annual. And those are like my big fish that I want to make sure I go after every single year. Right. So that's another really useful way to do that. And you're probably going to have to do that one manually, just because once they fill out the form, you don't know immediately if it's a great job that you want every single year.
Right.
Okay, this is kind of bad thinking too, but we've all had really, really nightmarish clients, and it might not be a terrible idea to tag them as like, do not work with. Like I have worked with people that it's like, they will never be happy. This was a nightmare, but in a year, I will forget the pain. I need to put a little note in there that like clearly flags them as like, really difficult. So
yeah, I could not agree more.
Oh, we've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, a lot of times you might find yourself needing to add a manual tag, and I would suggest also like keeping a list of the tags that you're using so that like maybe one day you're like bad client, and then the next day you write terrible client. Well, we probably only need one unless you have levels of severity of bad, but that's probably not necessary, right? So like just like keeping track of what you're actually taking things so that you can, when you're looking back, you can find
No,
that same group efficiently.
no, that's really important because you talked about that in a previous episode too. And my artsy brain like never would have gotten there, but your very like smart spreadsheet brain makes sense that like the idea of the drop downs or the limited choices is because people will have the same referral source. Say they heard about you from Facebook. One person might type in FB, someone else
Yes.
might type in Facebook, someone else might type in social media, someone else might type in the internet. And like those are all different categories and you don't know what any of those means versus limiting and being like, did you hear about us from Facebook or Instagram or referral? Like you can actually have a lot cleaner data. And that's the
Yeah.
same with tags too. Like if you have an annual tag, but you also have a recurring tag, well, what do you want to sort by? Like which one is which? So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like figure out your tags, figure out what is important to you. You might also want to tag like just like people who send you a lot of business or people who you want to make yourself available to or events that you got a lot of business from. You know, maybe it's like a charity event and you don't make any money, but like you got 10 people from that job from visibility or something like that. You can make up your own tags, but you want to figure out like what the easiest. For me, again, I don't have a tag, but like my favorite clients, it's not about money. It's the people who are super easy to work with. Like I have
Yeah.
clients that like, they spend like $250, but like they do not even care. They're like, can you just bring some balloons? This is the theme. Like those are the people I want to work with.
Yeah.
I much prefer that client over someone who spends $1,000 but emails me 500 times over the course of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
Well, this was awesome. Let's wrap up. We're at 23 minutes already.
Oh my.
That's our energy. Yeah, we tried to keep it short, you guys, but holy cow.
We promised we did.
You have more, right?
Yeah, yeah. I actually have a list. I figured why not do 17 features of 17 hats, right? Why not? So I'll plot that in the show notes as well. A little list of some other features that I think are cool.
Very cool. And again, if you don't have 17 hats, this might have sounded like a foreign language to you, but I know that there's a good number of you that do use 17 hats. And if you're like me, we're severely underutilizing it. So I'm excited about implementing a few of these in my business,
Yeah.
and I hope other listeners are as well. And if you don't have a CRM, that is the number one thing I recommend. People are always asking me like, how do you juggle your life? And how do you work a full-time job? And how do you... 100% it's because I have a CRM, because it does most of the administrative work for me. So it takes a while to get to the point where you'll be utilizing all of these tips, but
Yeah.
slowly but surely you get to a point where like you figure out how to shave a few seconds off of every step of your process. And that multiplied by every customer and every interaction really adds up to a lot of time that you can free up in your life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I expect it to be a process of constant kind of updates and change as your business grows. But yeah, it's going to take care of so much for you, just any CRM. But well said.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. And if you do not already follow Nicole on Instagram, it's Let Nicole Help. And she has some exciting education coming out soon. So if you are, I don't want to spill the beans, but if you are thinking about getting 17 hats, you'll definitely want to be following her for some upcoming announcements. Again, she's who I use to help get mine organized and finally functioning at like maximum level after like 5 years. Like I was using it for like 5 years and then I had you come in and you cleaned it all up in like a week. So can't recommend enough. So thank you so much for your time, and we will talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for joining me in this week's episode. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light in a few minutes or less. If you wish there were more episodes, you are in luck. You can join us in our Patreon group for our monthly book club. I record weekly episodes guiding you through a different self-development book each month. For as little as $3 a month, you can join more than 50 other balloon business owners in our private group. Click the link in the show notes to join us. So many of you have reached out and told me how the podcast has changed your business, and I love hearing those stories. But you might be ready to take things to the next level. If that's you, you should check out the laser-focused Solopreneur course where I walk you through more than 2 hours of video content showing exactly how I run my business as a solopreneur. I run a 6-figure balloon business, I work a full-time job, I have a toddler, and I produce this podcast weekly. And it's not because I'm more efficient than anybody else, it's just because I apply this laser-focused framework to every decision that I make. If you're struggling with work-life balance, figuring out how to grow your business in a manageable way, and feeling like there just aren't enough hours in the day, this course is for you. Check it out using the link in the show notes.